Shahakal, Baruch Hashem. So Nachman said, Natzachti ve'anatzeach. I was victorious and I will be once again victorious. I was victorious in overcoming ideologies that are not pure and good. And I will once again be victorious. And my light will burn until Mashiach. It's good stuff, Javier, right? Amen. And this light will only get stronger and stronger. And we're all a testimony of that. That for a Rebbe to say such a thing hundreds of years ago, that my Rosh Hashanah will be, there was only like a few chevra around at that time. Don't worry, chevra, my Rosh Hashanah will be something special. How would he know? That my light will only get stronger. You look around the world, you see the light of Breslov is getting very, very strong. Saying in pockets around the world. In North Miami Beach, you're seeing Breslov expanding. It's a very beautiful thing. And here, little Likutei Cafe, growing. Natzachti va'anatzeach. I was victorious, and I will once again be victorious in this week of Netzach, of the great power of victory, the power to push forward against all the manias. It's a big thing in Breslov, manias. You know what manias means? Challenges, manias. Trying to get to the tzaddik, oi, manias. Challenges. Manias. But Rav Nachman said you have to take manias, all the challenges, the roadblocks along the way, and it's the same letters, and convert it into ne'imus, pleasantness, sweetness. Change the manias into ne'imut. Change it into something sweet as I'm going through the challenge. That there's something sweet. There's a judgment that I can sweeten. That the manias become ne'imus. So Bezrat Hashem, we're in this world of Netzach. We're in the world of Natzachti ve'anatzeach. Let's go inside the Torah, B'siyata D'Shmaya. So we're mamish cooking here a little bit. We're moving here in the Torah. And we mentioned yesterday, Hainu ki kol halimudim she'adam lo yimed. Everything that you learn. Yes, everything. Everything. Receive it. You have to receive the experience, and then you have to be able to take out from it what is the straight path for me to go on. The mishpat emes. And again, what does it mean to have mishpat? To judge something. I have to see things. Is it going to the right? Is it going to the left? And I have to choose the middle path. That's emes. Shaloyed v'chinas mishpat me'ukal. That it shouldn't be crooked. I don't want to be a crooked person. I need to find what is the way that Hashem wants me to take this experience. Wow, Starbucks got nothing on this.
Nobody is stupid.
Dahainu. Sheyakabel v'yilmoid mikol halimudim shelo yimad mishpatei anhogas sheyeda ech lisnai. That a person has to learn from every single thing in the world. From a coffee barista, from his encounter on the street with somebody, from getting onto the bus, from his recent stock trade, situation that he was not so pleased about. Everything. Or he was pleased about. Everything. Every single thing is something that I need to learn from. Hashem, what are you trying to teach me from this? Which also means, if I went through difficulties in life and challenges, it wasn't for naught. Shem, what's the mishpat emes? What were you trying to teach me through that? I don't want to be too extreme of the way I look at it. I don't want to be too lenient of the way I look at it. What was the straight way to look at that situation? And we talked yesterday, it's not always clear what the straight path is in the moment. Sometimes we need perspective. And it's okay to give yourself some space to learn up my life situations. Hashem, what were you trying to teach me through that? And then the Rebbe says, Hein la'atzmai, hein la'acher, whether it's to yourself or to other people, shemisnagim lefi daitoi, you have to be able to see things in a straight way, because it's going to be number one for yourself, but also for other people. If people are going to be guided by you, I hope that you're living a straight life and not crooked. It's hard for crooked people to send people straight. Every single person according to his level of leadership, which is very reminiscent of Torah and Vav, but without making it children to Torahs and staying in Minei Ubei. According to the amount of power that person has. And there's Kabbalah in this, and Shurish Neshama, where his Neshama comes from, Atzilus. It comes from Bria, Tzir Asiyah, there's different places Neshamas come from. I'm saying we all come from Chachma da Atzilus. Just some people just pop right, just pop right out from there. Others go through the tzimtzum of the rest of the system. Others just Chachma da Atzilus, just hello. And those are the tzaddikim that are very tapped in. Others we go through more tzimtzum, so we're more coarse. Things aren't as clear to us. For certain tzaddikim, it's like crystal clear, everything, crystal clear. For others, it's like we need a bit more, helping out. Not as clear, we don't get it as quick. Hein l'rav or l'ma'at, whether you have a lot of people that you're leading, make sure that you're straight. V'kol zeh zoichen al yedei emunas chachamim, and how do we get to be straight? How do we get to be on the straight and narrow path? The whole wide world is a very narrow bridge. How do we make sure that so it has to be through emunas chacham, through tzaddikim. Don't go to the right, don't go to the left. There's something in the middle here. The tzaddik is guiding the middle way. Which is very healthy. The middle way is very healthy, balanced. A balanced approach to life. If you feel yourself in a situation in life, something is like just, I don't know, it claims to be religious, but it seems quite extreme. Then that warrants some thought. Things should feel very balanced. Very, very important balance. Then a person can find what are the hanahagas yesharis from every situation in life. How can I be manig myself and other people in a way of yashris? The bechin is mishpatei emes. And then we said, we got into this whole piece as a nidun b'yagias bosar hainu moisrus. The tzaddikim, which are creating a vision of things that are good and essential with tachlis adiktuk, and they're teaching me how to learn things with tachlis adiktuk, as opposed to what's not it. Like I heard from a rabbi one time. Said, make sure in life you keep the main thing the main thing.
That's their final season. It's very helpful.
That line was such a game changer. Sometimes you hear lines and they just like hit you in life. You just feel like something impressed into you. Keep the main thing the main thing. That's life. It includes a lot, because you got to know what's the main thing. You might think the main thing is the main thing, but it's not really the main thing. So you're keeping the not main thing the main thing. So then that's going to be krum and crooked. So geboit, built on that very concept, is making sure first to find out what's the main thing. And then if I know what the main thing, there's a secondary avodah to keep it the main thing. There's two avodas in this. Find the main thing and then keep that thing the main thing. But if I didn't chap the first avodah, of finding the main thing, then I'm, whoa, am I out? That's worse than not having the main thing, keeping it the main thing. Because at least sometimes maybe I'll hit the main thing. But if you didn't know the main thing, and you made the not main thing the main thing, and then you're like stark about not making the main thing, then that's way off. You're like corporately not making the main thing in an executive functioning fashion. And that's mamish bad. So find the main thing, and that's going to the tzaddikim. And they'll zone you into the main thing, which is called balance. Mishpatei emes, being straight, healthy, not veering. And then that main thing, keep it the main thing. Aviel, yes, my brother.
How determine tzaddikim? Is it Rav who knows a lot, or it's Manish Gadol?
This whole Torah is going to take us through that process. And Rav Nachman wrote this as a last will and testimony to not be naive that this Torah is very much about understanding that there's certain leadership in the world that's unhealthy and not balanced. And even though they might put on a face mask and appear to be so, you have to be careful. I think it's a Simon and Garfunkel song. Those are chevra, right? Yeah. So they had a song one time. It made such an impression on me. Be careful, his bow tie is really a camera. You hear that song before?
Be careful, his what?
His bow tie is really a camera. There's a lot of layers to that. That one zug, that line, is a stark zug. He's showing up with a fancy bow tie, rubbing shoulders. Very well. This guy's a hush of a guy. He's just filming you. He's just gathering data right now. Be careful, his bow tie is really a camera.
Like Google.
I was like, yeah, let's say. I remember being like a kid and hearing that sound. I was like, whoa. Like, I'm going to think about that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we're going to learn all about that. This Torah goes in that place. And we said somebody who rejects the tzaddikim, so he is judged by that very rejected material. And we went into that. That the thing that the body rejects, okay, we can be mature about talking about these concepts, because there's nothing that's beneath Torah to address. If Hashem made it in this world, it deserves to be addressed. We have many laws about using the bathroom. And some of them are detailed. And they need to be understood. About how a person can go to the bathroom like a dignified human being. And therefore there's nothing that we say is beneath for how God wants us to act in every situation. So we're also here speaking about that there's a part of a person's body that emits the waste product, which is not utilized by the body. It doesn't have the nutrients and the phytonutrients and the minerals and the vitamins that's needed for the well-being of the body, and it's rejected. And we talked about how the manna did not even have that, which is fascinating. And there's a problem if a person's not rejecting. The manna didn't even have anything in need of rejecting. Everything was integrated.
It's called superfood.
Mamish. However, if a person's eating food which should be rejected and he's not going to the bathroom, we're going to learn in a moment, that's a big problem. That's a big problem. The Rambam, probably the most balanced Jew of all time, considers that that's basically the source of all illness. Now, 1,000 years ago, the Rambam understood, if you're not going regularly to the bathroom, that's a problem. Any doctor will tell you, if they understand well-being, that if you're not going to the bathroom, like in a healthy, balanced way, something's off. And you don't need to be a groisa chacham to understand that if you got a bunch of pipes and something is, blocked up in the pipes and things are kind of blocking up there, that's not going to be good. Things start backing up. Anybody have that in their house ever? At least one time? Or a sewage system back up? That's immediately an emergency. That's not good. It's like everything stops. There's no I'm not in the mood to deal with that right now.
No.
I'm kind of like, maybe next week I'll deal with that.
main thing is now.
That's it. That is the main thing. You better deal with that now because there's nothing else to do. That is your reality. And you better deal with it immediately. There's basically nothing else almost that could trump that. Except God forbid a life or death thing. But like that is, if that's backing up in the house, that has to be immediately dealt with. So we'll see, once we get into this piece in Doeg, yeah, we're going to get to Doeg. All the Shmuel Chevra here are like, whoa, Doeg. We're going to get into that. But before we get to that, just understand that if a person's rejecting the tzaddikim, they are judged by that concept of rejected material. Now take that, it's not a physical thing, just use the physical thing as an analogy of what we're talking about, that physical thing has a smell, that physical thing is, if you're around it, it's like, it overwhelms you. It's the rejected thing. So look what the Rebbe now says. Or by v'kol hanishpotim hein min hamoyach. V'kol hanishpotim hein min hamoyach. This whole Torah right now is talking about mishpat. What do we say mishpat is? To be able to adjudicate, to judge something properly. How should I live my life? In a healthy way. How should I go in a healthy direction in life? Not to the right, not to the left. How do I have the middle path? I'm not talking about anything political to be the right, to the left. That's not what this is about. It's about whatever you've chosen, that has to be middle. That has to be balanced. So where does that come from? It comes from the moyach. It comes from your brain. Your brain has the ability, without getting into all the Kabbalah here, Chacham Bina Das, being able to see the Chachma, the Bina Das in the middle, Emes, Chesed, Gevur, Tiferes, cutting through the middle, Tiferes, Shebenetzach, Mamish, in the middle. The middle way of victory, that I will be victorious through the middle path. So that comes through clarity of mind. Bibechinas, if anybody remembers this story, V'yiru mipnei hamelech, they saw by the king, which king is this talking about? Shlomo hamelech, ki ro ki chochmas elakim bekirboy, that the wisdom of God was in him, lasais mishpat. The wisdom of King Solomon was in him. He had this godly wisdom in him to judge, to adjudicate. And of course, this is the famous story where two women came to King Solomon, and each one said, the baby belongs to me. Well, just I don't know, I'm not going to get tomatoes thrown, but biologically, it only belongs to one of them, correct?
Yes.
Okay? Right? So who does it belong to? No witnesses. So King Solomon said, she says it belongs to her. She says it belongs to her.
Just middle path.
We're just going to cut the baby in half. You take half, you take half. And one of the women said, okay, great. And the other woman said, no, just give it to her. And King Solomon said, the one who said cut it in half cannot be the mother of the baby. And the one who said just give it to her, she must be the mother because she feels a compassion to her own child. And therefore it must belong to that one. And people saw, look at the way the King Solomon adjudicates. Seeing things, a wisdom of judgment. It was judgment. He was passing judgment. And he paskined on one of them. He saw the sides. He created a situation that would create the mishpat emes. And he saw that through his moach, his mind. That was only one of the experiences where King Solomon's wisdom came out in the world. If anybody really wants to, around the world, understand the wisdom of King Solomon, I would suggest you learn Mishlei with the Vilna Gaon. Just read Mishlei with the Gra.
speak like that.
Mishlei with the Gra. People spend years. I believe Rabbi Yaakov Friedman, Shlita, taught that over for like maybe 5 years to like a chabur of like Rabbanim, like the Rabbi Rasmans of the world, like when they Mishlei with the Gra. I think after that he did Tanya. Rabbi Yaakov on Tanya.
Should do Likutei Moharan next.
Okay, I think it's a nice idea. Maybe next time the Rav comes, then you'll suggest. Okay, okay. The Gra, Mishlei. So Reb Nachman just said that the power of mishpat, the power of adjudication, the power of understanding what's the straight path comes from the moyach. And now Reb Nachman, I love that, that's why I feel so connected to Breslov, because Reb Nachman always takes you into the physiology of how your body works. It's always like, it's here. Torah's not outside somewhere, it's in you. It's all these Torahs are in your system now and help you understand your body. I think it's also just in my own life, I grew up so much connected to the world of well-being and medicine and optimization of the human being. And just feeling that Reb Nachman takes this into the body and he says, "Ve'hamoyach hu lefi hamozayin." And the way that your mind works will be according to the food you eat. I love when Orthodox rabbis say stuff like that. I think it's just really, progressive. Reb Nachman's very progressive. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Because we know that to be true. And we talked about bad food combining, and a person has bad food things, and his brain's a bit foggy, or he's been to junk food, it's just like not working. Haguf naki, and when the body is clean, when his digestive system is working properly, is not all stooped up with, overflow material, or things are stuck and things are not working properly, there's not healthy flow. That's why the Rambam puts that in the Mishnah Torah as halach. The Mishnah Torah it's not like a nice idea. He wasn't journaling. You know what I'm saying? The Mishnah Torah is halacha. The Mishnah Torah is basically all of Shas la halacha, which includes making sure to be regular and go to the bathroom. That's in Hilchos Deis, which is also interesting because it's Hilchos Deos, and it's Deos means how you should think and conduct yourself, and he talks about well-being, health. That's actually a healthy perspective of thought, of prioritizing well-being in your body. That's very important. And if anybody says, we're not like Gores, that part of the Rambam, it's a Rambam. You can't just cut and paste your Rambams when it suits you. It's Rambam. Okay? And you may see people say, that was for Egyptian, times. Maybe one or two of the food things. I could hear that. And some of the physiologies change. But definitely not going to the bathroom. And the Rambam says, and even talks about how to make sure to stay regular. You know he does that? He says, do this. Okay? He says, he's the original squat. He says, you go take a couple amas and just, and then you walk, and then he's like this.
Where does Rambam say this?
In Hilchos Deis, chapter 4.
Where you go to the bathroom?
He says in the morning, do that a few times, and it. Everybody knows to squat is a very important just position for the human person.
It's the blood pumping.
Yeah, it's just anatomically a very, very important position to be able to do. So if the goof is naki, as a moach borer, the mind will be clear. And then when the mind is clear, you could be a straight person. Things are working properly in your mind. But if a person has rejected the tzaddikim, and we said therefore he's judged with rejected material, therefore it's like he's being exposed to that material, it's hard to think straight when you're just surrounded by rejected material. It's kind of stinky. And Reb Nachman does not mince words. Azai, what happens? Oilin an ashonim sruchem el hamoyach. Okay, those words are important words to remember. The vapors of putridness. I don't know, bless you. I don't know how Reb Chaim Kramer translates ashonim sruchem, putrid vapors, foul vapors. What happens if those foul vapors start going up to a person's mind? They start mixing up his brain. He can't really think so straight. When a person is just surrounded by that material, it's like. So we're not talking about that. It's something on the outside. It's something on the inside. Spiritually, he's not clear anymore. Bad dreams also, like the Ramchal talks about. Yeah, Yosef.
I think I was sharing this with you yesterday, but I was just thinking about this a lot. Even though it might be waste matter for us, like Hashem designed the world so that it's never actually going to waste. Like for us, it might be sticky and serve no purpose, but for the fields and for crops, it could be mulch that's fertilizer that helps bring life, and then that could create plant life that could then feed cows. And for us, like even though it serves no purpose, like you saw, like there was a certain rabbi who rejected a lot of the Chachamim and produced Torah that for us was waste. But the Rambam said that this Torah, even though it's not for us Torah, I guess plays a big
So the idea is you can't go into this lechatchila. You can't say, I'm going to reject because I'm going to want to create mulch matter that something might grow later on. We can't do that. Not to mention that that's just bad, crooked. But are there tikkunim? Are there things that can come out in the end from mistakes? Yes, things that can come out in the end. Things can grow from mistakes. But we can't put ourselves into a mistake that something should grow. That would be Shabbatai Tzviyin, which we reject. Yamach Shemo. Okay, let's go. That's like the frankest Shabbatayan stuff, which is we totally reject that approach. Totally reject it. Absolutely. Va'aza eini yochel lo'hoitzi mishpatei emes. Va'aza yoitzi mishpat me'ukal. So that type, God forbid, a person starts coming to crooked ways of seeing the world.
So just to clarify for the record, I don't think that we could be intentionally doing that. I was just saying, like, by Hashem's design, like even though it does, like, is wasted, like doesn't serve us a purpose, it plays into like the cycle of life where it's.
You're saying like if you might be like, oh, I don't want to put this waste matter out because I don't want to like waste it, but like, no, it's okay to put it out and like don't worry, like something else will use it. But,
like before we had toilets, like
don't live in the bathroom. I'm saying like don't be involved in that.
Yeah.
That's also a Torah belief. Is you don't spend so much time in the bathroom.
It's in and out operation.
This is not like you shouldn't set up like a whole television screen, like a throne, like. No, it's not. That's not what it is. It's not what it is. It's just do what you need to do and continue on. And ideally, if everything is working properly, as the Rambam is guiding us, it should. It even talks about the way that it should be formed. It should be like a very efficient experience. I'm saying minutes. There's none of this like a person like gets himself like ready, stays for like a while. This is not like it's not considered like a place in the home where there's a significant time spent. If it is, then something is going wrong, and we need to address that. We have to work on that. We have to work on maybe dietary changes. We have to work on maybe cutting down on the sweaty rugelach. We have to talk about that. That's okay. There's hope. Okay. And what would happen? The wicked person, says Habakkuk, encircles the tzaddik. Al kein yetzin mishpat ma'ukol. He's like outside the tzaddik. It's interesting lashon of being on the outside, circling around, not connecting, but and therefore yotze mishpat ma'ukol. His judgments will come out. Why? He's outside. Sounds like also outside the circle. Hainu alidesha ashonim sruchim. And this is important words. Misabevinu makifena moyach. They're on the outside. They surround the moyach. It almost looks like it's like yamin or small. It's something that's not on the inside. It's not the emes. It's like outside. Al deze yotze mishpat meukol. Bebechinis, like King David said, mishpatim bal yedom. They know not of mishpat. They don't understand true mishpat. This would be a corrupt judge. This would be a corrupt leader. Hainu bilbal amoichem. Their minds are mevulbal because of the ashan and sruchim. Because of the moisris. Because they're to the yamin, to the small. They're not straight. And then he brings an amazing point by doyeg. Who is doyeg?
One who shows people who shows chevron, and he recommended he be able to
He wanted to paskin on King David that he was not from the kahal, that he was asur b'kahal, right? That King David was not kosher. The doyeg. So it says by doyeg, Ali deishali mudoy hay b'mechinas elo amoisaris. It says that doyeg's learning was from the moisaris, was from moisris. The doyeg was on the outside. The bechinas hanemar b'doyeg v'sham ish me'avdei Shaul netzar lifnei Hashem. Look at the word netzar. Atzirut means when something is blocked up in that area. You're not going to the bathroom. He was learning Torah, pardon?
It's like a stoppage, right?
Yes, blockage. He was learning Torah from Moisris, from the Ashanim Sruchim. And therefore, because he lacked the Amunas Chachamim, something was off in his learning. Shmoy Doyeg, Perish Rashi, Oitzer Atzmai, Lasik Bat Torah. He held himself back to study Torah. That's very interesting. What does it mean he held himself back? So one of the shatim is that he was not going to the bathroom and learning Torah. You know, if you have to go to the bathroom, you're not allowed to learn Torah. Or daven. You have to go to the bathroom. Okay, if you could hold it in for 72 minutes, even though that's not a chatchila, you should go. But it's not considered, a toyeva. If you did daven, or you did learn, but l'chatchila you should go. Not be OCD about this. Do I have to go to daven? I don't know. No, go and you're fine. But then look what he says. Ki limudai hayim bechinas atzirus, bechinas moisrus, al yedei zeh loy hayim moitze v'milimudai mishpatei emes. He didn't come to true understanding of Torah. Rak mishpat me'ukul. He came to crooked understandings. And what was a result of that? One of his psaks. Al kain hayadan she'ein David roy lavu ba'kahal. King David's not allowed to come into the Jewish people. Because everything with Ruth, Hamoyabiyah, we're getting towards Shavuos. Our great grandmother Ruth, the great Moabite princess convert, the grandmother of King David.
We'll study on Shavuos.
That's right.
Great stuff.
And who came along and paskined? Shmuel. And Shmuel said, King David, Moya v'lo Moyabiyah, King David is kosher to come into the kahal. Shmuel Hanavi paskined. And that was it.
Shmuel was Emunah and Chacham.
That's for sure. Shmuel.
Can't get involved.
Shmuel was as great as Moshe and Aaron. Shmuel Hanavi. That's right. Moshe and Aaron. Royana. Oh, Shmuel. Goy On Wednesday, it's already, like Kabbalah Shabbos. Like you feel like. By the way, one of the things on Wednesday, what's the song of the day on Wednesday?
The long one.
The long one. At the end of the song of the day, we say L'chu Neranena, which is already hinting to you that there's a his noitzitzuz, there's a sparkling, because Wednesday is already half the week moving towards the next Shabbos. So we're already tasting the sparkling of Kabbalah Shabbos. That's why it ends with L'chu Neranena. I usually sing it a little bit in like a Kabbalah Shabbos niggin, just to like put me in the zone. Because it's like, it's sparkling already. It's coming. Some of the tzaddikim on Tuesday nights, daf gav a minhag, because Tuesday night is Wednesday, that they eat fish on Tuesday nights. Because they're already saying, Shabbos is coming. This is like the turning point towards Shabbos. Get involved, Rabbi Say.
Yes, sir.
Ve'al kein haya dan she'ein david roiv lavoy b'kahal v'zeh haya al de shelimuday haya b'moisorus k'nir la'el. We're going to begin the next ois, because the next ois gets a bit toasty, and it's quite a significant ois. And this ois is now going to speak about what happens when we give. We already set up the story of Emunas Chachamim means we can come to Mishpatei Emes. We could have Emes. We could be Yoitz Mishpateinu La'or. We could come to clarity and the danger of veering from the transmission in a pure and holy way. And already mentioning those that were veering and what happens to them and how that the Ashanim Sruchim from the Moises are making their mind me'ukal and crooked. Now we're going to expand on that and speak about really being careful if there are those that are sadly in a situation of mishpat me'ukal, make sure not to give them extra leadership, because that can spin out of control. It's interesting, the Vilna Gaon has a very amazing idea that the Torah says the Torah itself can be samachayim, an elixir of life, or samha Mavis. It could be an elixir of life or an elixir of death. How is that? The Torah? Eitz Chaim hilamach zikimba. Well, it's simple. If you're learning the Torah with Emunas Chachamim, you're going to come to Mishpatei Emes. If a person's learning Torah without Mishpat Me'ukal, in the name of Torah, he's going to be making things very crooked. And the Vilna Gaon gives an amazing analogy to this. He says, Ein mayim el Torah. The Torah is like water. When you have water, water makes things grow. Whatever you got is what you're going to grow. So imagine you have this beautiful, tulip garden, and you start watering it, and it's just beautiful. Tulips as far as the eye can see. It's so gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's fragrant. It's amazing. It's beautiful. So that's a beautiful thing to water. But what if what the person has is already that he's left the Chachamim? It's mishpat me'ukal, and you start watering that. It's like watering a Venus flytrap. It's like a monster, like Little Shop of Horrors stuff. Like be careful. And therefore, this whole sif is going to speak about being careful of watering and giving more power to those that are crooked, that are ma'ukal. So the Rebbe says, we'll just begin this, and Mitzvah Hashem next week we'll have to expand on this. And we'll be speaking about this also on the porch. V'yesh manhigim shenikroim b'shem Rabbi. There are certain leaders that call themselves leaders, teachers. Shelimudam me'elu amoisarus, and they are getting their teachings from rejected things. That would be certain, let's say, splinter groups or Remember, we talked about in the first shiur the whole backdrop of this Torah. The whole committee for the amelioration of the Jews, and the statute concerning the Jew, and the pale of Jewish settlement, and the Tsar Alexander I is starting to take Jews and move them into basically government-controlled places where they would appoint who the leaders and the rabbis would be. And of course the government would, this is state-sponsored, education. And therefore, I'm not sure what the state, agenda was pushing, because if you're state-sponsored, so then you push the agenda that you were given. So there were leaders cropping up that were threatening, authentic.
This was the backdrop to the more socialist kind of like movement in Russia, right?
This was in the early 1800s,
Early.
where we're talking about the beginnings of other ideas coming in. And Reb Nachman is saying, in the Enlightenment, Reb Nachman is saying that we've had thousands of years of transmission. Every single step clearly teacher to student on hundreds of thousands of levels going down. It's not just one vertical column. In business you want many verticals, you know what I'm saying? It's all about verticals. It's not just one vertical. I got many verticals. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of verticals going down, of absolute transmission and cross-referencing the authenticity of not just one vertical I received from my rabbi, but I can give testimony that my fellow student received from that rabbi, and that his fellow received from that rabbi, and his fellow received from that other rabbi. We can all cross-reference. So that's all the primary source data. It's not only that these non-healthy and crooked leaders can't even run their own life. Mikol shekain, certainly she'enam yichayim lahanigas acher. How could they lead other people? They're crooked within their own Daled Amos to say that they're now going to be the vision for a community forward. And really, they're trying to take greatness to run the whole world.
Karl Marx in the 18th century was in that era in Russia, and his father and his father's father were both rabbis.
So he may have some bad experiences with the. We just read the Likutei Moharan.
It probably would have helped.
Yeah.
But do you think Rabbi Nachman could have been anticipating this?
Yeah, Rabbi Nachman was anticipating. He was anticipating until the end of days.
You could see.
He was anticipating until the end of days. So we're sort of leaving on a cliffhanger here, like, what's he going to say next? This is very strong Torah. This Torah was also said on Rosh Hashanah, which is important to have in the backdrop, that what's Rosh Hashanah all about? Mishpat, din. And if you want your mishpat to be emes, and your mishpat to be or, and your mishpat to be borer, that's right.
Down here, Hashem will be up there.
That's right. So if we can do it down here of emes, of or, of borer, then Hashem is going to judge us favorably. But if we're somehow off, that's not a good thing. We want to be on point. LeDavid Hashem oiri. Oiri zu Rosh Hashanah. Chazal say. Oiri zu Rosh Hashanah. LeDavid Hashem oiri v'yishi. Yishi zu Yom Kippur. LeDavid Hashem oiri. To David is great light. The light that we're talking about is Rosh Hashanah. The light, to come to a place of light, of emes, of goodness, to sweeten the mishpat, that it should be emes, it should be going in a good way. We should be zoicha, my dear friends, to connect to King David, to have the emunas chachamim, to be connected to the tzaddikim, to be balanced, to be healthy. And if we can do that and really build as healthy human beings and connect ourselves to the Masorah, then we'll see that we'll be able to give over to our students goodness and peace, to our children, a good way of living, a happy way of living, a healthy way of living, and ultimately to help all of humanity to be happy and healthy, to go in a way of emes, to go in a way of straightness, to be connected all the way back to the source, to go all the way back before the tzimtzum, as far upriver as we can, Yasel, all the way back. We should mamish be zoiche to the mishpat emes, to the mishpat barer, to the mishpat of or, and Bezrat Hashem have clarity going forward, and mamish natzachti ve'anatseach, that I was victorious, Reb Nachman says, and I will once again be victorious. Because victory means that you could push away the mishpat me'ukol, and that everything should be flowing. There should be a flow. The nachal noiveya mekor chochma, Rosh Tevis Nachman, like a flow, a mayin hayotz in the Beis Hashem, that everything should be flowing from the Beis Hashem. We should be zoicha mamish to the or of Rashbi, to connect all the way up to Moshe Rabbeinu, the Rai Nehemna, to be connected to the Tzaddik Emes Moshe Rabbeinu, and with that to have the Beis Hashem in the mokum of Kimitzian Teitze Torah Dvar Hashem, the Dvar Hashem Diber Bi Milosa L'Shoini. We should be zoicha mamish to Meshitzit Kein b'Meher of Yemena. Amen. Oh Yahweh Hasheinu Mato Elokeinu Manayim God. Ah Yahweh Hasheinu Mato Hayom Manayim Aleinu. Shachris.